Okay. So, good evening, teachers. Can I have the cameras on for 2 minutes, please? Just for 2 minutes. If we could have your cameras on for like 2 minutes so that I can address you and we can begin the session. Okay, great. So, as we all know, TeachSmart is an all-female teachers group, and we have so far intended upon uh, finding progress, which is finding identity, which is our pehchan, and thus proceeding towards our tarakki. And today, for one such webinar, we are present here today. It's called Classroom Lessons for Teachers. Now, we all know that in today's world, where the attention span of kids is a little less, instant gratification is a thing, and kids are all about one touch away from everything. They want to play games, they want to have video games, they want to have interactions, they want to have, you know, uh, something that can grab their attention. And in that world where we are struggling already because of the pandemic, we have one teacher amongst us. Her name is Miss Urvi, and she's here to tell us how to surprise your kids every day with something new and how to keep their attention held for long enough so that your classroom vibe isn't killed. So, ma'am, I would like you to take over, and you can obviously tell us about yourself once the webinar is done.
Thank you so much. So I'll start with a screen share, and of course we're talking about how to make classroom lessons very interesting for teachers. But one thing I would want to start with is many of us are parents here. Do you agree? Yes?
Yes.
Any parents in the house? Can we have some noise?
Yes, I am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
I am.
So when we became parents, there was no book to tell us or no course to tell us how to become a parent. Yeah, we learned it intuitively. So I think teaching also comes intuitively. Of course, there are courses which are B.Ed and D.Ed and blah blah, but I'm not a certified teacher, and I'm happy so. Of course, I'm not against being certified or doing those courses related to education, but the point I'm trying to make over here is that our experience and the students teach us much more than the course teaches us. Yeah. So I have had an experience of teaching of over 20 years, and I've had children and adults and all age groups whom I've catered to. So the first point I want to make is that we have to keep evolving as teachers. Every year and year ahead, we get a new batch, we get new students, and they're all different in their own ways. Moving on to the next slide, this is a kind of meme which shows that in purane zamane mein padhai kaise hoti thi and now how studies are. So can you quickly in the chat box tell me how is education or how is teaching different? Pehle kaise hota tha aur ab kaise hai? What are the challenges teachers face? Can you quickly put it on the chat box? Can we have some interaction? Can you all put it on the chat box that how is education more different? Okay, it is more interactive today. Today's kids are less attentive. Okay. So in earlier times, definitely there were these sages, and after a particular age, children used to go to gurukuls or they used to stay away from parents and get training from their masters. And mostly the transmission of teachings were orally sikhate the. There were no books. Then of course when we were in school, we had books, we had teachers. But now the zamana, if that's the correct word to use, is very different, because as Tapti mentioned, that at the click of a button, kids have everything. So more than the knowledge, it is how you teach that matters. What you teach is also important, but how you teach is more important. 1 second. Yeah. So here today I'm going to share a few tricks and tips on how to keep children attentive and how to make it more interesting for them. So the first thing is set your hook. Now, what is a hook? Hook is something that you tell them about which is not actually related to the topic, but it captures their attention. So, for example, I tell you something which is very, very interesting, then you will want to hear me more and more, right? So, that is a hook. Just 1 second, there's something on the chat box. Nowadays, students are facing more challenges and they find everything online and desktop. Yes, thank you for sharing that. So how do you create a hook? That's the first thing. So let's go on to the next slide to know how to create a hook. So there are these 4-5 ways on how to create a hook with a saying or a quote, with a joke, GIF or a meme, with a fact, with a story, with a real life incident. These are just 4-5. Then you can use your own creativity to devise more. Now I'll give you a few examples of how I use these. So, for example, there is this quote which says, necessity is the mother of invention, right? So, this is one of my favorite quotes to use. So, एक बार I was teaching this group of college students and I had to teach them about lights, the modern LED lights. So, I started with this quote and I said, कि necessity is the mother of invention. And I started with a story, कि पुराने ज़माने में how people used to sleep as soon as the sun would set, people used to go to sleep. And then they got more greedy, so candles came in, diyas came in, lanterns came in, and so on and so forth. And that's how I built the hook by this quote. Also, this hook I used for when I was teaching an art thing. I was teaching about transport, I think, and that's also when I said that man had this necessity कि पहले वो हर जगह चल के जाता था, everywhere he used to walk and go, and then came in bullock carts, and then came in public transport, and now we have our own private cars. So this is how I use necessity is the mother of invention, a quote in different ways. Then this is a meme. It's called shout out to old people for graduating high school without Google. So when I was supposed to give a project to a bunch of kids, I told them, you all are so lucky that you all have Google. Look at us. We had to search for so many books and we had to find information in so many places. So I used this meme to start. So that was the hook. Then this is a drawing of a twin house. So twin houses, two identical houses, basically looking same. So I started by saying that there was this story called Hansel and Gretel, where the brother and sister loved each other so much. And then when they grew up, they didn't want to live in separate houses. And so they built a twin house. Now, this is just out of the blue. I built up a story. But the thing is that they got interested in drawing such a thing. So there are many other examples. If I want to give you about hooks, I'll discuss a few examples. So there was a particular topic called automation. So automation is basically आप अपने mobile से या tablet से कैसे how can you control different lights and AC and all that automation. So I started by saying कि हम जब छोटे थे तो we used to hear this story of Aladdin, and Aladdin had this magic carpet कि वो जहाँ पे भी उड़ना चाहता था वो जाके उड़ सकता था. So Aladdin was a very fascinating story with me, and so I find automation also very fascinating because at the click of a button I can shut the window, I can open the curtain, I can start the AC, and so on and so forth. Then a real life example I would give is once I hid my son's phone. आजकल technology का ज़माना है. My son is a 10-year-old son, and I hid his phone. So I was taking this class on how we should look inward. So I gave them this example that there was this story. Is everyone following? Am I going very fast? Please let me know.
No, ma'am, it's going very smooth. Thanks. It's very helpful.
Okay. So I'll just screen share and I'll continue. So I was very fed up with my son one day, and I hid his phone and I hid it somewhere. And then I was telling this bunch of students this story that there were these two people. One was a villager, and he had sold his everything, and he was going from one village to another, and he was carrying all his belongings in one bag. So when he was carrying all these belongings in a bag, the journey to make was very long. And on the way, he met a second traveler. So they were discussing things and all. But then eventually, the first man realized that the second man was a thief. He was a chor. So then he got very panicky क्योंकि रास्ता बहुत लंबा था and they had to stop in between at a temple for the night stay. They couldn't travel at a stretch. So the first person who had this bag of valuables, he was very worried कि मैं अगर जागूंगा तो I will not be able to make the journey which is so far, and if I go to sleep, then that thief is going to steal away all my belongings. So then he got an idea. So when the thief went to use the restroom, what he did was that he hid his belongings under the pillow of this thief, and he quietly went off to sleep. And next day he was very happy that his belongings were very safe, and this thief, he found and found and found every nook and corner of the temple, and he could not find the valuables. So the moral of that story was कि we find things everywhere around us, पर हम हमारे जगह पे नहीं देखते. So I had basically hidden my son's phone in his own cupboard. So उसने पूरा घर ढूंढ डाला, पर उसको नहीं मिला वो phone. And finally, that was the point. I was teaching a bunch of students this, but I backed it up with a real life incident. So it got it very interesting. I have a lot of examples to give you, but so I was teaching unparenting. There was a workshop which I was taking for a group of parents, which was called unparenting. So I started with a hook, which was an example from the movie Tare Zameen Par. So that was like in Africa, there is this tree, there's this jungly tree which grows, and these African people, tribal people, they don't cut off the tree. वो सिर्फ उनको गालियां बोलते रहते हैं. Every now and then गालियां बोलते रहते हैं. And एक हफ्ते में या 10 दिन में वो झाड़ मर जाता है. So that was a hook I created for a unparenting workshop to tell parents how their negative words affect their children. So similarly, we have chess teachers and yoga teachers and art teachers and dance teachers. So I'll just give you a few examples on how to create that hook. So in chess, probably you can tell them a fact about a king like a Shivaji, or some queen like a Rani Lakshmibai, some fact which they may not have heard about. Or you can talk about some player, some Vishwanathan Anand or anyone. Yoga, probably you can talk about the types of yoga, or first when you joined yoga classes, what is your impression, and so on. Then one more example I would like to give is in one of the social service classes that I was taking, I was teaching them about civic issues and potholes. So that at that point of time, there was this video of Malishka, which was very famous. Have you all heard that video? I don't know about Malishka. It was about potholes and the BMC in Mumbai. It was a Marathi video. Does anyone of y'all recall that video? Mumbai, what is that? Mumbai, Tula Mazavar Bharosa Hai Kai, something like that. It was a very, very catchy tune. So these are the kind of hooks you can create in the starting of your lesson. But these hooks can be used somewhere in the middle also. If you think that, the attention is going down. Today, kids, their attention span is limited because of the kind of gadgets they are using, a fast life that they are going through. So definitely you can use hooks here and there also, but to begin with a hook sometimes is very interesting. So here I put a disclaimer that break the hooks sometimes. So break the hook with some not so interesting instructions. That means that every time you don't have to be creative and kind of burden yourself. Okay, how do I start today? But on and off, if you give these hooks, it is good. But you need to kind of break that pattern also, not get them used to too much of stimulation also. So one fine day, probably you all can just start by saying, okay, do this, this, this. Just give them some simple instructions. So you have to break this habit of giving stimulation and breaking it up. So that's about hook. Coming to the next slide. One second. It's Hinglish. So Hinglish is something we speak in English and Hindi mix. A lot of teachers speak only English. In fact, I remember when we were in school, we used to be told by our teachers that speak only in English. Even if it is break, speak only in English. But तभी the zamana was different, and the thing was कि घर में इतना English नहीं बोलते थे, and the more you speak, you get a better command on that language, right? But आजकल के बच्चे, they see so much of English series and English movies, and English is all around them. So it's not that you cannot speak in English. You should include Hindi and English here and there together, because it creates a very good connect with the children. Because if you see, most of them, when they are speaking to their friends, they won't be speaking English, they'll be speaking Hindi, or they'll be speaking in English and Hindi mix. So English is one very important point. In fact, I recall a story over here of Tenali Raman. There was this story of Tenali Raman when there is this man who comes into King Krishnadev Raya's court, and he says that I know so many languages, you cannot find out which is my birth language. And he challenged Tenali Raman. And there are so many people who come and try and test him, and he speaks every language so fluently. And then Tenali Raman gets an idea. What he does is, when he's sleeping, when this man is sleeping, he puts in some water on him, and this guy suddenly wakes up, and he shouts in his mother tongue, and that's how he comes to know that what his mother tongue is. Anyway, the moral of the story being that we are most comfortable in our mother tongue, and Hindi is next to our mother tongue because it's our national language, right? So, of course, most of education is in English, but English is a very important part teachers should use to make that connect with children. Make sense? The next thing is being punctual. So starting on time is something very important, sometimes very challenging also, because we end up like in a webinar like this also today. I wanted to start on time. Yeah, but teachers kept coming in a little. So it is like this, that for those who have come in on time, it is unfair that they have to wait for that 5 or 10 extra minutes for those people who are still coming in, right? This is not only about today's webinar, it's generally a habit which we need to form for everybody, especially the students. So being punctual is very important. So 1 or 2 times, if you start on time and children are missing out on something, they will automatically third or fourth time come on time. They will learn how to come on time. Of course, you need to reiterate every time that be in time, or be 5 minutes or 10 minutes before class, and it will slowly happen if you stick to your word. If you start waiting and say, okay, we'll start 5 minutes, we'll wait for others to come, then they will take it for granted and they'll always end up coming late. Another point I want to make here and be punctual is not only start on time but also end on time. So end on time is important because attention span of everybody is limited. Even we as adults, we do have an attention span. So if you are committed that you will stop at this time, you should stick to that time, or better still 2-3 minutes earlier than that, because that not only keeps your word, but it kind of the other people know. Like for example, however good a speaker may be, if the session is supposed to end at a particular time, 5 minutes or 10 minutes before that, you will invariably keep looking at your watch, even if you are interested in the session. So being punctual is very, very important. Schools are reopening now. So offline schools, sometimes what happens is we have back-to-back periods. If there are school teachers here in the room, we have back-to-back periods. Then what to do? So in that case, what you can do is that the period which you're supposed to finish, you finish it 2-3 minutes early, and you reach for the next class on time. So make sure you begin on time, but you can end it 2 or 3 minutes earlier. The next thing is never repeat instructions. So this may sound a little harsh, never repeat instructions, but this is something in my early years when I started teaching in a school, I had Googled up how to make your students listen. And this was one of the thing that struck me, never repeat instructions. Now, what happens when you repeat an instruction? When you repeat an instruction, the children know that you are going to keep repeating it again and again and again. तो वो पहली बार में ध्यान ही नहीं देते. So we as teachers should make it a habit that we don't repeat instructions. Sometimes, yes, it is not heard, or sometimes some children are slow to learn. So you may have to repeat it, but try and reduce it to as much as you can. If this is a habit, repeating instructions, we have to be aware of it and reduce repeating instructions so that they become better listeners. So that was my next one. Then this next point is give the topic a practical value. So today's children, as I said in the first slide, that teaching is become different. Teaching times are different. Earlier times, children never used to question their teachers. वो लोग जो teacher सिखाते थे, blindly they used to accept it. At the most, if they had a question or a query, they would put it up. But today's children, they want to challenge everything. They want to know more about it. They want to know why they have to learn certain things, right? So giving your topic a practical value is very important. I'll give you a few examples over here. So I was taking an art and craft class and I was teaching them gift box making, like making a gift box. So they had to draft various measurements and make a gift box. But how did I add practical value to this is that I told them that everything has a packaging, right? From your pizza box to a perfume bottle to a gift that you buy, everything has a packaging. So if in future you become an entrepreneur and you have to have a packaging material, you need to know how to take the dimensions, right? It's not only about making a gift box. So that was about gift box. Then I was teaching them again a topic in art which is called lettering. So how to make letters in a grid, how to write them small to big in a curve or whatever. And then I gave it practical value by teaching them that how social media is so important today. If you have your own brand, how do you create these creative posts, and how lettering is very important. You may not do it by hand all the time, you may do it digitally, but it is still important. You see all these hoardings everywhere, there is text and text is written in a certain way. So that was about lettering. Recently, my son, who's in fifth grade, he had this topic called area volume, and he was given this very interesting activity wherein they had to remove a budget of painting a room. So room mein how many walls are there, how many windows are there, how many doors are there, you have to deduct the volume and finally come to a painting budget. So I think that practical value is very important. Once in one class, I was teaching these kids, 8th graders or 9th graders, I don't remember, stitching a button. And one of them asked me, Miss, what are we going to do of learning to stitch a button? So if I would say you should know and it is a life skill and all that, of course they wouldn't be interested. So I just gave them that suppose tomorrow after 2 years, you think you want to go abroad to study, you think you're going to get a tailor or a servant who's going to put that button for you on the shirt if you have an urgent meeting. So then the kid understood. So giving practical value is very important. Am I clear till here, teachers? Am I clear till
Yes,
here?
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So the next thing is that we are going to do one activity. So I'm going to send you a link on the chat box. I want you to go through that link. Give me a second. So we're doing a small quiz and just give me a minute. Okay, I've posted this link on the chat box. I would want to, okay, this has gone only to Tapti. 1 second. I'll just put it to everyone. I want all of y'all to join this quiz very quickly. So this is going to look something like this one. Has everyone joined this? Is everyone able to join this? Please tell me if you're not able to join it. Okay, we have one person here. Please join the link. Okay, we have Tapti and Sharmila and Avni. Okay. Others, please join quickly. So let's start this quiz. You all can attempt this quiz. Avni, Jyoti, yeah. Sharmila, answer please quickly. Padma's answered 5. Tapti's answered 2. Come on, teachers, quickly. Let's answer this. Okay. Okay. So on my Zoom share screen, you all can see the teacher's preview, and what you all are doing is the students' preview. Okay, Padma's finished all 6 questions. Awesome. Others, buck up quickly. Sharmila, I think your internet is a little weak. It's rotating. That means it's the internet. Anyway, you can see the teacher's preview on Zoom, so you'll get it. Come on, Avni and Sarmishta, buck up. You'll have 1 more to go. Jyoti, you also, 2 to go. Okay, Avni, Padma and Tapti finished. Sarmishta and Jyoti, come on. I'm just looking at some of the answers. So these can be multiple choice or they can be just answers and this gives you a view. Are we done with this? So this was just one quiz thing which I wanted to show you all. And we come back to our webinar. Did you all enjoy taking the quiz, teachers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's one way to interact with your kids. So through quizzes or through Nearpod or through Kahoot, all these things, you can create quizzes. You can give them fill in the blanks or you can give them multiple choice and a lot of things can be done. So the next thing we come to after practical value is surprising them, and the next thing is innovation and constant change. So surprise and innovation and constant change really go hand in hand. But before we do this, again, I'll make you all do one small activity. Can anybody volunteer to do this activity? It's a small puzzle of 12 pieces. Will anyone volunteer to do this? Teachers, anyone would want to do this? Can I have a raise of hand, or can you tell me if anyone is ready to do it? Come on, be sporting. Okay, Tapti, would you want to do it?
Ma'am.
Okay. So there's something called remote control in the screen, and you have these wonderful online puzzles. So with remote control, I can give the control. I'm giving the control to Tapti, and she'll be able to control my screen. So Tapti, I've given you the control. You can control the screen. So this is one small yoga puzzle to start with. Probably you all can do something like this, where you give the control to the student so they are able to control the screen. This is very exciting for all age groups, where they are able to control the teacher's screen and do something. And the good part about this is that you can allow only one person to handle the remote control, so there's no confusion. Would any one of y'all want to try doing this? Should I give the control to any one of y'all? Do you want to try? No, it's only Tapti. Okay. So it also gives a timing, and you can choose how many piece puzzle do you want to make, and so on and so forth. So you can use this for music or dance or any science subject, any math subject. It works wonderfully. I use it a lot for my speech and drama classes.
I'm either doing fantastic or I'm doing terribly.
You're doing decently. You can do better. I think you've not done a puzzle in a long time.
Very long time.
Yeah. So is it fun or not?
Very fun.
Yeah.
No, as in when you get a hang of it, I think it becomes interesting, even more interesting.
Any type of creation gives a lot of satisfaction. So when these kids are allowed to control the screen, they love it. They really like it a lot. Okay, and you're good to go.
Almost.
Yeah. Almost.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
so
we
if
can
you're
take it.
taking a particular
And
yoga
then,
pose, probably you can use this kind of a puzzle, and
yeah.
you can give screen control. You're done? Okay,
Yeah,
three
yeah, yeah.
pieces to
Take
go.
over, please.
3 more pieces to go. Okay, I'll just finish that for you. So even the teacher has a control, and even the student has a control. And it gives a timing. Now this I started long back, so that's how this timing is so much. But otherwise, you can give a lesser time. Coming back to surprise, innovation, and constant change. So this is one thing which is very dear to me, and I keep doing different things. I'll give you a few examples. So how to surprise them could be asking them a lot of questions in between, so they know that they have to be alert all the time. Another thing is, don't have the same flow of the class. That means you don't begin maybe with, I'm going to do this, and I don't have the same class flow. Do it in a different way. Maybe you do the third thing first and the first thing next, and whatever, like that. I teach a group of school students, and I do attendance in different ways. So sometimes I share that Excel sheet and I do the attendance in front of them. Sometimes I take the attendance from back to front instead of front to back. Sometimes I do a share screen. I just take a snapshot and do the attendance later. Sometimes I appoint a kid volunteer. I tell them, okay, you are the person who is in charge. Come on, tell me who's present and absent. And that's how the attendance happens. So these are just innovative ways of doing very simple things. Sometimes I just start by saying, okay, today's class has 3 segments. In the first part, I'm going to do this. Second part, I'm going to do that. And third part, I'm going to do that. One more experiment I did recently was having a silent class. So silent class is something what we are going through right now. Basically, it doesn't work too well with kids because kids want to talk and ask all the time. So silent class, what happens is you mute everyone, compulsorily mute everybody, and then whatever they want to ask, they can ask only from the chat box. 1 second, I'm just stopping the remote control. Yeah. Whatever they want to ask or tell, they have to do it only through the chat box. So that kind of helps to not distract the other kids also, and the kids who are hyper, it teaches them some amount of patience also. So when I did this class for the first time, everyone was like, please unmute us, please unmute us, and I was calmly saying, okay, put it on the chat box, and half of their extra questions which they ask unnecessarily got cut down. Then in some classes, I had student become a teacher. So I gave them a topic, and one student prepared, and that student taught the other people in the class. Now, how this is effective is that the teacher also gets some rest, and the second is that the student does more research. So not only that student who's becoming a teacher learns more, but in their language, their friends understand more, sometimes better than what a teacher could explain. So a student become teacher is a very good way. Then sometimes what I do is I don't give verbal instructions. Instead, I share my WhatsApp, not WhatsApp, what am I saying, whiteboard screen on Zoom, and I type out instructions. And that's how it is an innovative class. One thing is that we need to maintain the momentum and the energy right till the end. So we need to have these different things amid our class. We cannot only start with a hook and then the whole class goes drab. We can't do that. We have to build the momentum. Then set up goals that challenge difficulty levels. So for example, I was teaching them a Republic Day flag. So Republic Day flag, I gave them a challenge that, okay, first of all, you all know how to draw a circle. How will you divide it into 12 parts? 12 parts, no, 24 parts. Then what will be the angle? So those kind of calculations. So 8 specific, you have to give them something difficult that they've not done, but not too difficult that it demotivates them completely. It has to be enough so that their curiosity is sparked. Giving responsibility to them also works. So for example, I tell them, like, in the next class, probably can you research on 3 points and present it to the class, or can you do this for this person, or suppose there is some difficult concept or a difficult step in art and craft, and they are not understanding when I am explaining, then I appoint one student. Oh, this one has done a very good job. Can you explain how to do it? So giving responsibility not only boosts the person's confidence, but also again, it increases the attention of other peer students. Peer evaluation. Peer evaluation means friends judging each other. So this is one thing I do. I create when they are supposed to present something. There's a project presentation. I always create a Google form wherein everybody has to mark everybody. Every student has to mark every other student or other group. So peer evaluation is one way to keep them engrossed. Then allowing screen share. So of course, now today when I am talking, I am screen sharing. But for example, if they are allowed to screen share, or they are allowed to annotate. So annotate is an option wherein you use the pen, right, on the whiteboard and scribble. So for example, here I'm annotating. So if there is some answer to be written and they are able to write that answer, then that is again an innovative way to have a class. So allowing screen share, annotation, giving them the remote control. Like right now, I gave the remote control. There are a lot of live online worksheets and puzzles and all, which you simply have to click on the link and allow them to control the screen. So it becomes very interesting. So that's how I would put this thing, surprise, innovation, and constant change to be. Then the next topic is witty ways of dealing with difficult situations. Just go to the slideshow. So not all children are good at all the time. They're not always well behaved. And as teachers, sometimes we have to be sweet, but sometimes we have to be strict also. Do you all agree? Do you all agree? We have to have a balance of strictness and sweetness. So I'll just give you
Totally.
a few examples of a few difficult situations I had with my school kids or college kids, and how I dealt with them. These may not be the most appropriate way, but I think it was very differently handled and they got the point. So so usually when school was physically, and between periods there is a break, there's a lot of commotion when one teacher goes out and the other comes in, because that's the time children get to chit chat with each other. So how to make them settle down? Now, since again school is opening for a lot of us in phased manner, I'm taking this up as an offline topic. So initially I used to write 10, 9, 8, 7 on the whiteboard and by maybe 1 or 0 they used to settle down. Then I started, instead of 10, 9, I would write 1, 2, 3, 4, and the count would go until all of them settled. And then I would say, oh, okay, 25. That's good. You settled down in a good number of seconds. Then another way I would do is just go stand there and not say a word to them and just stand there. And just with that expression, they would settle down. Then on one instance, I'd gone to Shirdi and I had got these pair of manjiras. So I went into the class one day and I started playing manjiras, and all these children are wondering what's wrong with this teacher of mine. Why is she playing the manjiras? And then they suddenly realized that I just want them to settle down. So without saying a word, without shouting at them that settle down, they settle down. So that was one way. Then once in school we had this very notorious batch of 10th standard kids, and the whole staff was very troubled with this particular batch. In fact, our principal had given them a lot of consequences, in the sense they were not given a farewell. No one from their batch was made head boy, head girl, and all that. So it was a very notorious batch. So I was taking this session with them, and they were making a lot of noise. So I said, because y'all are making a lot of noise, I think y'all should play Simon Says. So then we started Simon Says. So I said, Simon Says, everyone stand up with their lips zipped, with a finger on your lip. So everyone stood up. Then I said, sit down. So everyone sit down. So I said, I didn't say Simon Says sit down. So then one of the kids from the batch, he said Simon is a C, and he said the C word, the abusive C word. Simon is a C. So I said, okay, so how to deal with this? So I said, Umar was his name, come here. So then I said, on the whiteboard, please write what you called Simon. So he was like, Miss, I'm sorry. So I said, option 2, your class teacher is sitting in the staff room. Please go and tell her what you called Simon. So this guy's like, Miss, I'm really sorry. I won't repeat it. I said, third option, I will write what you told Simon in your diary, in your planner, and you go have it signed from the principal. So he was very sharp. He was very baffled what to do. So then I said, okay, fine. Last option, in big and bold on the whiteboard, write, I am what I called Simon. And he wrote it, I am what I called Simon. And the whole class shut up. And from the next time, every time I entered that class, it was a very quiet class. So that was one difficult situation I handled this way. Then one more situation was, I was doing one topic with, again, with my 10th graders this year. It was relating to emotional health and emotional well-being. And they were supposed to come up with some skit. All the girls had done the skit and none of the boys had done the skit. So I was thinking how to set them right. What should I do that even the boys respond and they do the skit. So first I thought, should I not let them inside the meeting? Should I send them a mail? Should I bombard them? But then I got an idea at the last minute. I admitted all of them and then I started playing this video. So there's this video from the film PK. If you all know this video, this is when Amir Khan is going to Bauman Irani's office, and there's this packet of condom which falls down and everyone is like, ye mera nahi hai, ye mera nahi hai, ye mera nahi hai. So I played that video clip. It was nothing wrong to play because there was nothing sensual in that clip. It was just the condom word. And I asked them, okay, why did I play this clip? So then they said, maybe because there is lack of sex education, because blah, blah, blah. They gave me the reasons. I said, no. I said I played this clip because boys think they don't have any emotional problem and they cannot do the skit. It is okay not to do the skit. That is why I played the video. So I said, I'm giving the boys 10 minutes, leave the meeting, put up a skit and come back. And in 10 minutes, I had all the boys come and do the skit. So this was one difficult situation which I handled with wit. There are a lot of kids in group classes, especially who keep their cameras on. Some people are working behind the cameras, they have genuine issues and they keep their cameras off, while some are not able to cope. So I think sending them a personal email by telling them that we trust them and if offering a helping hand. This is one thing we need to do for those kind of students instead of telling them कि ठीक है ये तो आता ही नहीं है and all of that. Then the next step is personal grooming. So when you enter a class, it is not necessary to go all dressed up and decked up. But one thing you need to know is that children are observing you all the time. Not only what you're talking, but what you're wearing, what the color of your nails is, and every little detail. So you don't need to dress up and go, but a basic grooming of neatness has to be there in a teacher. This is one thing I believe in. And apart from the students, what they think of you when you are dressed up and when you are neat and tidy, you yourself feel confident. So that is one etiquette I think as a teacher we all should have. Coming to the next point, 200% attention. Now when I say 200% attention, why do I say this is that nowadays parents are busy. A lot of parents are busy. They are working parents. They are not able to give children their time. There are a lot of small families, so not that the children have a lot of family members to talk around, so they are always craving for this attention. So when we are taking a class, if we are giving them that 200% attention, they are going to listen to you. So when we are taking a class, please ensure that you're not looking at your mobile, you're not looking here and there. You finished everything that you had to finish and you're 100 and 200% into the class. Don't try to multitask. We women are very good at multitasking. कि हम ये भी कर लेंगे, वो भी कर लेंगे, वो भी कर लेंगे. But don't do that. Don't multitask. Just be with them when you're taking the class. And in fact, 5-10 minutes before the class, settle down, plan mentally what you want to take the class, how you want to take the class. And I think that should be good. Also, occasionally, I think you can give them time to talk because their attention will kind of sway from here to there. So if you think a topic is too heavy or it's going too much bonkers, maybe you can give a 2-3 minute break for them to just sip water or just be off the screen for that 2 minutes or so. Since I said that, does anyone want a 1 minute or 2 minute break? Because I need a little water break. So you all can take a 1 minute break and come back. I have 2 slides to go. Can I continue? So the next topic is teach not only your subject but also life lessons. Before I talk about EQ and life lessons, I would also say that a lot of subjects are interlinked to each other. One subject cannot be only one subject. Everything is interlinked, right? So, for example, when I was taking this Republic Day activity, I took up a few GK questions as well, a little bit of geometry, a little bit of science about colors, and of course, art was there. Then during December, I was teaching them a craft on how to make a snowflake. So along with the snowflake, I gave them some science facts about how a snowflake is formed. And then I read out one small poem of how snowflakes are all similar, but they are all different, and how we are also different, but we are all beautiful in our way. So there was a little English and a little science to the art. So teach not only your subjects, but to treat it as a totality and try and teach them a mix of all that. But I also really very strongly believe that EQ and IQ should go hand in hand. So apart from teaching the IQ part, the facts part, the emotional quotient, the EQ is also very important. So as kids, I think we had moral science classes, and we had a lot of adults to tell us what was right and what was wrong, and a lot of things. But today's children, I think, are lost somewhere there, and that's why they lack this attention. So I think in terms of EQ, there are a lot of things which we can teach them. For example, waiting for their turn, or raising their hands to speak, or we can just have one session on discussing good and bad days. Anger management, I think, is a very important issue with kids these days. I think that should be addressed instead of shunning them while they're getting angry. It should be addressed, it should be talked about. Problem solving, then empathy, handling group projects. So when I do group projects, I always tell them that of course you're learning a lot of facts, but when you're doing group projects, you're also learning to mingle with each other, tolerate each other. And of course there will be differences, because some will do more work, some will do less work. There will be differences, but that's how you will learn leadership skills. That's how you will learn how to tolerate each other. And so EQ and IQ should go together. That's one very important point, because that emotional connect has to be there. And I come to my last topic, and that is giving specific appreciation and criticism. That means giving specific feedback against vague feedback. So we will not say ki, this this is a very good done project, or you've written it very well, or this is a bad project, or it can be better. These are very vague feedbacks. In fact, you have to be specific. So for example, if handwriting, I'm saying, so you can say that when you started, your handwriting is very good, but I think you seem to be in a rush, so you finish the end part very quickly. So that could be a specific feedback. Also, maybe if it is an art piece, then the color combination, instead of maybe a red and a yellow, you could have used a blue and a yellow, something like that. Instead of saying you make so many silly mistakes in maths, you can show them, oh, this is the mistake, and this is the mistake you keep repeating, and this is how it is solved. So if it is an essay, for example, in English, where to put what punctuation, what is the exact issue with the work, that should be pointed out. And of course, appreciation everybody likes. If I say, oh, you're looking so good, or your work is so good, obviously appreciation is something everybody likes. But it's not that you're giving false appreciation, but you're giving specific, truly felt appreciation. That is very important. So that's all I have to say about today's webinar, and I'll put in a slide of about me. But in the meanwhile, if you all have any specific feedback which you would want to give me about today's session, about appreciation or criticism, I would really appreciate if you all can put it on the chat box. I'll share screen a little bit about me. This is a little bit of my profile, and Tapi, I'll give you the control for putting it on the chat box. One second. So the chat, just one second, Tapi.
Sure, ma'am.
Okay, I've given you that control, Tapi. So yeah.
Once everyone is done, if anybody has any questions, any comment of appreciation or criticism for ma'am, once you all are done with that, I will share with you the Google link for your e-certificate. So all you have to do is you have to fill in your name, you have to fill in the correct email ID, क्योंकि उसी email ID पे आपका certificate आएगा, and you have to just mention if you liked the webinar or not, and you have to submit the form, and a e-certificate will be generated for you.
So if there are any questions, or if you all can give me any feedback, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Any more specific feedback, I will really appreciate. Whether it's criticism or appreciation, both are welcome.